Hiya, I hope you're keeping well. I'm just going to do like a nice plummy and gold spotlight smoky eye today. I'm getting ready for an IT Cosmetics day, so everything I'm using is from IT, and I'm going to use just a few different bits. So just because I'm looking at them and they're driving me a bit mad, I'm going to start with a little bit of brow pencil. And the kind of look I'm going to do today, I did it in another video a while ago and it was probably one of my most popular videos. It's basically a lovely eyeshadow technique that looks a bit better when it's a bit more smudgy. So a really good one for when you're in a rush. I'm not necessarily in a rush, but I don't want to spend more than 15 minutes on the video because that's how long IGTV seems to allow me to have. I've already got my base on to save a bit of time. I need to go over it actually and just build a little bit of coverage here and there. But anyway, let me sort the brows and then I'm going to get stuck in to my eyes. Now, I've noticed with my brows, there are a few little gaps here and there. I've noticed that over the last couple of weeks. So I like using a thin pencil if I see any gaps, because you can kind of just get in there and fill them in. And what I always tend to do, whichever brow product I'm using, is just make sure I've brushed through those inner corners to soften and fluff them out a bit. So now, I'm just gonna, funnily enough, I'm using a setting powder to look into. I'm gonna take a bit of setting powder over the lid because I just washed a bit of my base over the eyes rather than using a concealer, and that will seal it in. And it is very warm today. So I'm just going to put a little bit of powder here so that as I'm going along, if I start getting a bit warm, I've already set it in. It's actually not that warm, but I've just dried my hair. Not that you would tell because it's all puffed up again. But anyway. Okay, I'm going in with, just to show you, I'm using an old palette that has a little bit of everything in it. So I'm going to take some bronzer through the socket of my eyes. I always love doing this. Any kind of eyeshadow look, really. I just think it helps you to have a little frame in mind, set a bit of a template, and then use that. You know, if I want something really smoky, I'll follow that template and take my shadows up to there. It's always a lovely kind of soft, sculpted way to do your makeup. Just taking a bit of your bronzer through the eye and leaving it quite fresh. If you do use a warmer bronzer, I often find that if you're going for a bit more of an adventurous colour, maybe like a green or a grey, they bleed really well into a bronze and it just can give it a bit more of a classic, wearable finish. I've got the windows open and I can hear the little girl next door laughing. You might hear her as well. Okay, now spotlight. I'm gonna reduce this brush a little bit and I'm gonna take a little plummy shade in these inner corners. Again, I'm not being particularly neat about this because it looks nicer when it's all a bit smudgy anyway. And I'm going to buff it all out soon. And then I'm going to take some on the outer corner. Oh, gone into the next shadow along, which is a bit deeper. We'll soon see if the brush picked it up, won't we? Lovely. And then I'm actually going to match this kind of misshapen finish under the eye. So I'm going to go a little bit along and then a little bit along. and keep the middle free. Going along here. Okay, now, this is such a great, like, smoky eye if you're in a rush, because it's really impactful, but you can see that I am literally just throwing this on. That brush goes fuller and more dense, so I'm going to buff off the excess product onto the back of my hand. I say I'm gonna, I just have, is what I meant, but I'm already storming ahead. And I'm just gonna buff those edges and soften them a little. And then what I'm gonna do, once I've softened it and made it look nice and blended, I'm gonna go back in and intensify those corners. I think one of the keys to blending is getting the product on, softening out the edges, and then building the core again so that you have the softness of the edges but you don't miss out on any definition. No. Okay. Nice and sharp again. I may actually take, there is a matte plum that's a slightly deeper purple, and I'm gonna get back in there so that hopefully what we get is the illusion of a deeper purple softening into this softer purple and then bleeding out into nothing. Something a bit different, isn't it? If this is a bit purple and misshapen for you, by all means, there are loads of different tutorials along in my IGTVs. So just go and have a little mooch and you'll find something, hopefully, that fits the bill of what you're looking for. Okay, so now I've got that framework in place, I want to add like a nice pop of some brighter colours. So I'm going to take, do I want to go for gold or pink? This is a great question. I'm going to go for a gold. This is what I usually do. When we used to have this palette, one of our models, Nalintha, she would always have like a nice smoky already done. And then I would just press a bit of this sparkle to her lid and it would take seconds. And then it really just shows how the sparkles can make your eye makeup pop. Now, if you, for example, had done your makeup and you hadn't done this shape, but you wanted to create it, like if you'd done a grey or a burgundy or any kind of colour all over your lid, if you take a really high shine shimmer, you'd just be able to do the same and press it to the centre of that lid. I'm going to take this, if I look forward on, yeah, that's about right. I'm going to take a slightly deeper gold to fill that negative space underneath so that it's not as pop of white. Okay, now, do I want to go in with a liner? I don't have a liner to hand. I've got a very thin brush. I might just take a little bit. There's a powder black liner towards the end of that eye. Just give it a tiny bit of definition in those outer corners. I don't want to use anything too thick because when I look forward on, I want you to see the pop of that sparkle. And if I go in too thickly with my liner, that will overtake the whole thing. That's enough, I think. You can see how it's given a tiny bit of definition without taking away from the main event. And if you have any darker shadows that you like the look of. They're really good to just press into that lash line to give a bit of definition without having to mess about with a liner, and just, you know, add a little bit of shape. I mean, I have absolutely ballsed that now, but I'd say I'll get away with it. We'll be fine. Okay, loads of mascara. I've been doing this a bit recently. This is the Tightline Mascara that I think I've shown you before. So I'm going to really gently use this one. It's really great for just separating the lashes and catching every single one. Gives a really soft, pretty kind of lash if you wanted to use it on its own, but really good for getting each individual lash caught and to have its moment. This is fantastic if you have shorter eyelashes as well, because it really will get in there. But what I am actually doing with this is pulling all of the lashes out. Look at the state of my hair. Honestly, that is the humidity in this room. I'm not going to forfeit uploading an 11-minute video over the sake of a bad hair day, but that is quite bad, isn't it? Let's just push it back. And then I'm going to go in with a fuller mascara to just catch every one of them now and build the volume. Lovely. And then on my complexion, I think I'm just going to do a little bit of bronzer to add a little bit of shape here and there. I'm going to take the same bronzer I was using a moment ago. Take some. If I had a bobble here, this hair would be going up and out of the way. Take some through the temples. Really buff that in. I've done that incredibly full, haven't I? I was just about to say, when you use a dense brush, you get a really full finish with your bronzer. I mean, I feel like you can already tell that that's exactly what's happened. We may revise the bronzer situation when I'm off the video, but I'm not going to stop now because we're nearly there. Lovely. That all seems to be working itself out actually, doesn't it? Okay, and then a tiny bit of blush. I'm going to take a cream highlighter, and what I like to do with creams, this is a stick, they're lovely, they're new, these little cooling sticks. This is the copper one. Now, if you weren't as conscious of building coverage, you could just go straight in, but I need to build so much coverage that I worry that any pressure would then remove what I've just built. So instead, I'm going to pat this in with fingertips. As you can see, it is really highly pigmented. And then I'm just gonna buff it out. Take the excess along the nose. And I'm just gonna check. I never like to be too far in to the cheek. So there we go. I've buffed it out nice and soft. I'm going to run the straighteners over this head of hair, and there is a nice spotlight smoky eye. But I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll be talking to you again very soon.